2 of the 1984 Cal State Northridge radio broadcast that was helped put together by Clay Singer, Ray Harwood interviewing Errett Callahan on flint knapping. Here's more from the master, Errett Callahan.
This project, for a number of years we did these projects where everything we did, day in, day out, was done all with stone tools. Everything that went into our stomach, went through, we had to dig out or catch or swim, fishing, whatever, hunting, trapping. So we've done a lot of that.
What would you say, like to sum it up, what would you say that helped you in your knapping career that you think could help others, inspire others, or help them in their knapping?
Basically, to slow down and think of what you're doing. If you're in a hurry to get to a certain goal, you won't make it nearly as well and as thoroughly and as quickly as if you slow down, think about what you're doing. Flint knapping is not like making a basket or wood carving or something. It's like playing chess against a computer. That piece of material knows all the laws of physics of the universe that apply to it, and you don't. And what you have to do is to systematically dissect that piece so that you get the format of it that you want to without making a miscalculation. I've never done that, but I think it's possible. Lots of the miscalculations you can cover up and correct, and some of them you can't, like if you break it. And what you're trying to do is to win the game, and this is a game which calls for the maximum amount of thinking and pacing yourself and watching what you do. I'd also recommend that people work small. Take a small piece and just a pressure flake, something you can, just a flake, and practice doing this for, dozens or hundreds of these things until you've got control of that. If you can do it on the small thing, gradually work up to a big one. Don't just jump right in and try to make the dagger or something with a big piece of flint you find, because if you make something and it's not typical, you've just wasted a lot of flint. Mm-hmm. And if you don't break it, and very few people can handle a piece over a foot long without breaking it in short order. Mm-hmm. There are half a dozen knappers from cut world from. So, I'm talking about for percussion.
Yeah, right.
But whatever you do systematically and with a degree of reverence for the material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about all the questions I can think of.
Well, it's going on here for a long time. Probably not longer than you had in mind, but
yeah, that's fine. I can take the most important parts of everything and come up with a pretty good interview.
Well, I've never had an interview before. I haven't ever given one, except that one that I sent you recently, long ago. Mm-hmm. I've preferred to spotlight other people when I was editor rather than spotlighting myself. That was one of the basic philosophical decisions I made at the outset. So it's kind of interesting to talk.
Yeah, it's amazing. All those questions I thought I asked didn't seem to apply. But then, once we started talking, I thought of more questions.
Well, sure. And if you got any more, do it now or later. Shoot.
There's one thing when you were talking about fluting techniques is one that it's sort of a cultural adaptation of the area I live. Is what I do is I use a block like what's that guy's name? No, what I use is a block of wood, and I cut half of it away, and then cut a flute in it, like
McCormick?
What's that?
Like McCormick?
Yeah, and then I set it up against there on about a 90-degree angle, and I grind about a 30-degree angle in the nipple, and then I put it underneath a drill press, and I put a copper bit in the drill press, and I push down with the drill press, and use that as a lever.
Well, make it work with abrasive materials too. Then you'll have something.
Yeah. See, that's I sort of.
They've pretty much already done that in that article that he had some years ago, not too many years ago.
Yeah. I mostly flute glass because, it's pretty hard to come by good stone tools.
Let's do it principally in glass before you try to do anything else.
Yeah, that's what I figure. I don't want to go breaking a lot of pieces because it's kind of hard to. I either have to buy it or go pretty far to get it.
Well, there's a lot of people that in the past have worked with these so-called stainless steel Indians, and I think if you're trying to do some kind of contemporary stuff where you're not doing replicas, that's fine, but unless you can take these things and convert it over to natural materials, there are going to be a lot of people that will raise questions.
Yeah, that won't have any archaeological.
Finally did in his article. He adopted his copper pressure flakes to antler and little antler kind of thing, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't realize an antler works much better than copper.
Yeah,
the long flake, it's got elasticity, it stays in contact with the platform once the flake is released, whereas copper doesn't. Copper just crushes and bends, and it doesn't have the follow-through that antler does.
Mm-hmm.
The only main advantage is it's less maintenance and keeps a sharp tip.
Yeah, and it's probably easier to get in the city areas.
Yeah, but it definitely produces a different type of flake.
Mm-hmm.
Those that say it doesn't know what they're talking.
Okay, well, I guess that's about it for now.
All right, do I owe you some more drawing?
Okay. What was that?
Do I owe you some more drawing?
Yeah, I'd appreciate it. If you could get me some sketches of, in the, Bob Patton sent me an article from Colorado, and in it he outlines his reduction sequence that he used for Pete Kloster's, his lithic casting lab. They did a series.
Pete Kloster, yeah.
Yeah, and what he did is basically he mapped out, from stone, the different bifacing techniques to the finished point on a Dalton. I was wondering if you had any drawings of like a whole sequence so that people could, like you're talking about perfecting sequences, if you could send me some line drawings of each sequence at what you consider a finished product of that sequence.
Well, that's a possibility. I got, the MA thesis of these clovers, the early stages, but those are, what you want is more like one biface running through stages. I've got some outline drawn, you may not, I don't know, I'll look it up too and come on.
Okay. If not, I could...
If I'm doing it, then I don't need to do it.
Yeah, that's true, but... Yeah, but if they could relate what they're reading to something. A lot of people don't like to read; they just like to look at the pictures anyway.
Well, that's their loss.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, but
you know about this article coming out in the Mammoth Trumpet about that Paleo Indian house we did last summer at the Thunderbird Museum?
No, I didn't see it. I don't get the Mammoth Trumpet right now.
Well, see if you can get a copy. You might want to mention this article in the next issue of the Mammoth Trumpet coming out in March. They're going to have an article on this thing. It's Center for Study of Early Man.
Yeah, I just subscribed. I'll be getting the next copy, but I haven't gotten any of the previous one.
Okay. That's an article I have pending. Well, I didn't write it. It was written about me.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. It's going to be in the next one, did you say?
Yep.
Oh, okay. There's another book by Bonnickson, I think, that it outlines some work you've done.
Well, he's done one, yeah. It's a huge book. It's called Understanding Stone Tools by David Young and Rob Bonnickson. So,
What kind of role did you have in that?
Well, they had me up there at Maine for 7 hours videotaping me from beginning to end on this point, and I made one and Bonnickson made one. Well, I made two of them. One, I made this tiny little arrow point, and each of us did, and they video taped every little thing and all the decisions, and then they dissected that into in great depth. It's probably the best work in cognitive archaeology that's ever been done. They show how you can relate the flake scars to the decision-making process. At last, it's the most scientific thing, and it's excellent work. And then we made a big broad spear type of thing out of this cell site they have up in Maine, which I did quite a good job of. But they didn't include that. I wish I had, because it was much more of a challenge. Excuse me, little arrow point. So, there were two craftsmen that he studied, myself and himself, Rob electronics, and then they just sort of dissected into hundreds of pages on the the step-by-step procedure of how I went around making that particular point.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
It's an absolute must for flint knappers that are interested in looking beyond the end of the nose.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, that's about all I can think of right now.
All right, well, let me see it when you got it.
Okay, yeah, I'll what I'll do is I'll write it down, because I'm really a slow typer, so what I'll do is I'll print it, use good printing and I'll write it out and synthesize it a couple times, and I'll send it out to you, and you can make comments or corrections and send it back, and then I'll type
Maybe a
it out.
handwritten or type.
Well, I'll send it handwritten, but I'll make it so it's legible, because I type too slow to make it. Well, actually, I probably type quicker than I can handwrite it. Well, anyway, I'll send you a rough draft probably in the next couple days.
I'd rather look at type manuscript because we can, like double space it.
Okay.
We can adjust it and shift things around a lot better because you can't tell much from a handwritten thing.
Yeah,
Really
that's
nice
true.
to read. That's gonna be long probably, but
Oh, that's okay.
let somebody do it. Your wife type?
Yeah, she probably could do it for me. She types about 300, 400, 500 times faster than I do.
Once you got a good handwriting copy, then it's a piece of cake to type from that.
Yeah, that's true.
I had to learn to type when I was doing my dissertation because it just really got expensive to get somebody else to do it. My wife did it.
I've gotten pretty fast now, but it's hunt and peck sort of.
That's all I do.
Yeah. It works good enough. But I got in the digest this time. I got a newer typewriter that looks a lot better. But a lot of people sent their articles in already word processed on computers.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them look just like a regular book.
Well, no reason. That's fine.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And all the pages, it doesn't look off because a lot of books now don't have the perfect margins on both sides. So.
No, I don't think that details like that are important. The content it is, and the fact that you get it out.
Yeah.
You're doing a valuable thing, Ray, and I really encourage you.
Yeah, it's really.
Thing I could do to help. I've always tried to do, and I think it's a valuable, thankless job, but it's the kind of thing that got your.
Yeah.
It's valuable.
Yeah. Well, it's really rewarding too, because I've only started flint knapping probably in 1983.
Yep.
But I've always been into artifacts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily pot hunting, but I must admit, when I've been hunting a lot of times, I pick up a point or two on the trail.
I've never did it.
But I used to do it before when I went to college. I figured out what I was doing, but before that I didn't know until I was educated about it.
Yeah.
But
I guess I was always fascinated because these guys do something I couldn't, and I wanted to be able to do it.
yeah,
And I want to be able to do things that never been done before too, because the Indians just touched the surface of what could be done because they were limited by
function.
basic necessities of life, and we can go beyond that.
Yeah, we don't have to depend. Our life doesn't depend on the function of the tool, so we can sort of go on the outskirts of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of break through some of those attitudes so people would have more options, possibilities, as a basic craft form than they have had up to now.
Yeah. Well, I think most of the criticism about knappers is from the pot hunters anyway, and I don't care what they think anyway.
I don't care either. They do more harm than anything imaginable. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
But I don't market to them anymore.
Yeah.
Knife collectors are just fascinated. They're interested in grabbing up anything whatsoever. These broadheads. Did I send you that picture of these broadheads I'm doing issue points to Puma?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, those are nice.
I'm going to take out a head in the next longbow.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, I've seen a lot of points. It's surprising down here. I've been working a lot with glass just because it's so available, and I've got a pretty good handle on how to use it now.
Good.
And I started looking around at two universities around here, and they let me look at their collections. When I was going to school, one of them they let me look at a lot of the collections. In fact, I was doing some surveys for them and stuff. And 2 or 3 digs they had were real, right near the contact period between the Spanish and the Indians, and
Right.
you know, they adapted the glass as their preferred material